Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Islanders. We hope you enjoy this edition.
Hello and welcome to Labor Vision. My name is Erica Hammond. We're coming to you from our at-home studios, and joining me today to give a very important update on both the VITA program and everything that's going on with tax filing season for this year. We have four awesome guests. First, we have Roshni Darnal, who is the Grants and Initiatives Manager of Workforce Development at United Way of Rhode Island. We have Linda Katz, who is the co-founder and policy director of the Economic Progress Institute. We have Kannyka Pouk, director of programs at the Center for Southeast Asians, and Allori Fernandes, director of Aging and Adult Services at the Federal Hill House. So thank you so much for being here, ladies.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Welcome back, and happy first time for your first time, Allori.
Yeah, I'm a newbie.
Good. We love having new guests. All right, so I wanted to thank all of you guys for being here. I know that this is really important to get all this information out, and I know there's a lot of questions and concerns around tax filing for the year. So thank you so much for being here to share all this great information. Linda, do you want to start us off by talking a little bit about first stimulus payments and kind of some important details around stimulus payments and how it may affect or how it connects with the tax filings for this year?
Sure. Thanks. So I'm sure everybody's heard about the stimulus payment, which is a maximum $1,200 for adults and $500 per dependent child under the age of 17. Anybody with the gross income below $7,500 for a single person or $150,000 for a couple would get the maximum amount. And then as income goes up, the stimulus payment is reduced, and the cap on who can get a stimulus payment would be $99,000 for a single person and $198,000 for a couple. In order to get the stimulus payment, the person has to have a Social Security number, both for the adults and for the children. And unfortunately, if there are married couples who file jointly and one of them has a social but one doesn't, even if the kids are citizens, they do not qualify to get a stimulus payment. So people who have been working with an ITIN number, or if it's a family where one parent has a social and the other may be undocumented, unfortunately those families are not eligible to get the payment. There's some effort going on federally to try to make sure that people who have ITINs can actually access the payment. So how do people get the payment? For people who filed their taxes for either 2018 or 2019, they automatically will be getting the stimulus payment. And I think many of those folks have already received their payments. And then there are other groups of people who also automatically will get the payment. And that includes people who receive Social Security, disability, or retirement insurance, people who get railroad retirement benefits, people who get SSI, which is the federal cash payment for people who are 65 or older, or who have a serious and persistent health problems that prevent them from working. They also will get the benefit automatically, and similarly, people who get veterans benefits or veterans dependents benefits. One catch is that all of the people in that group, if they have dependents, they had to have filed through the non-filer portal to be able to get the benefits for their children. And if they failed to do that, there was an earlier deadline for Social Security participants, and the deadline for SSI and veterans just ended on May 5th. So people in those categories, the adults will get their payment automatically, but in order to get the payment for their children, they're going to need to file a tax return for 2020, and they won't get that payment for their kids until 2021. So that people should just know, and I think together we'll need to be doing some outreach next tax year to make sure that people who normally don't file a tax return file so that they can get those payments for their children.
Okay.
One important thing to point out is, so then people who have no income for 2019, they can use a simplified tax filing, which they do through what's called the non-filer portal on the IRS website. And that is a fairly straightforward process for people who have had no earnings in 2019 to be able to use. If people have earnings in 2019, but they didn't file a tax return yet, for families especially, while they could use the non-filer portal if their income was low, they really don't want to do that. They want to file a full tax return because families can get the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit, which the amounts of which are much more significant than the stimulus payment. So a real important message and takeaway from this is that anybody who had earnings in 2019, they didn't think they needed to file a tax return because maybe they only earned $6,000 or $4,000, so they weren't going to file. They really want to file a tax return, and it's great to have the VITA folks talking about the help that they can provide people to file the full tax return, not use the non-filer portal, so they can get the maximum benefit for themselves and their families.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Roshni, can you talk a little bit about the VITA program specifically and some of the major changes that have taken place with everything that's going on?
So good afternoon, everyone. So VITA actually stands for the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. It's a federal program. It's been around for over 50 years at this point. It's a nationwide program, and it's a program that is essentially designed to assist low-income families and individuals to file their tax returns for free at a VITA site, which traditionally has always been a social service agency or a community-based agency, where a IRS-trained volunteer will work with the client to have their taxes filed for free. One of the reasons that we have always promoted and asked clients to take advantage of this program is because, number one, like I said, it's free. Second of all, clients can walk into a site and have their taxes returned, prepared, and they could have a qualified volunteer inform them or educate them on credits that they otherwise did not know they would be qualifying for. Things like the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit, a lot of education credits, college, whatnot. So the volunteers are fully trained and have the awareness and the knowledge to give that information out. United Way of Rhode Island has been a big supporter of this, the Volunteer Income Tax Program, the VITA program. There are about 25 sites across the state of Rhode Island, and collectively they've served about, I want to say, thousands of Rhode Islanders every year and bring back over $5 million in refunds just in the state of Rhode Island. However, we are this tax season living in very different times, and everybody is encouraged to social distance. So that has kind of created a precarious situation in terms of getting folks to come out and take advantage of this service. So to help and assist with that, we have partnered actively with some of our partners on the ground, like Federal Hill House, like the Center for Southeast Asians, and also a few other sites that are currently open and providing the services. And if I'm not mistaken, there are about 5 or 6 other sites that are currently serving clients, including some CAP agencies, Tri-County,
Why don't
Community
I
Care
share
Alliance
this?
in
I'm gonna.
Woonsocket. Yep, if you want to share that up on the screen. So yes, the CAP agency in Cranston, Federal Hill House, Connecting for Children and Families, Community Care Alliance in Woonsocket, and Tri-Town Community Action. All of these VITA sites are currently offering services for clients to go in. Clients are encouraged to call and find out what the protocol is. Many of them are doing drop-offs, trying to limit the contact, and there are many different ways where everybody is trying to utilize creatively ways to have their taxes prepared, provide this critical service, but also maintain public health safety. United Way, for their part, is serving as an intermediary to try and assist with this process. We are having conversations to help streamline this process more electronically with the use of technology, and working very closely with our partners on who are doing the work to get constant feedback on what is needed, so that this process can be refined and used on the ground, so that the staff, the volunteers, the filers, and everybody is safe. This is also potentially a dress rehearsal for next tax season, or the fall, when we have to start maybe thinking long term. If these measures stay in place, the stay-at-home orders or the social distancing orders, if they continue to stay in place, all of us have to start thinking creatively on how to deliver these services. So we're very lucky and we're very committed to be able to have those discussions now, so that the preparation is happening ahead of time should this be needed in the fall. I just also want to add that United Way 211 is always available 24/7, 365 for anyone who has any questions trying to either access current sites that are open, who they need to call, the numbers if they're looking for a phone number, or any other information in terms of any kind of supports they might need. Everything from the stimulus payments to the VITA sites. Please feel free to call 211 at any time, and have one of the folks there help assist in navigating all of this information.
Okay, thank you. And both Kannyka and Allori, can you talk a little bit about site specifically? I know that you're both coordinating site locations, and Allori, I know that the Federal Hill House is kind of spearheading the Providence Coalition. Can you talk about what this process has been like, transitioning to doing things virtually over the phone for the most part? And I'm going to ask a double question kind of, but how different has the outreach been for, are you seeing that the numbers of people calling and asking questions is comparable to the number of people who would normally be coming into the sites?
So I almost immediately, once we kind of knew what the outcomes were going to be for the pandemic and we had to shut down, our VITA sites were closed down for about 2 weeks, and we collectively as a coalition, really kept connecting with each other on ways that we can continue to provide this essential service to the families in our community, especially now more than ever that a lot of, our families are experiencing unemployment. VITA is such an essential service anyway, because it's offering, it's offering that, that extra income every year. And so a lot of families depend on that income. So now, given the times, it's even more important. And it's essential as well. So we really were talking about different ways of how we can connect with our families. And we did look at a lot of digital processes, but we realized, we're in Central Providence. We're a large portion of our families are low income, which is why they qualify for VITA. So a lot of them don't have access to internet and things of that nature. So it just became more logical for us to create a drop-off site. And so with further research and looking at sort of how other states were operating, we came to that conclusion as a coalition. and Kannyka and also Federal Hill House staff Stacy created a drop-off protocol, which would ensure the safety of our staff as well as the residents that were coming into our site. And so we are making sure that we're sanitizing all surfaces. We have a table right in front of the door where our intake forms are placed. So there's just limiting contact. We're wearing masks, we're wearing gloves, we're doing everything to keep ourselves safe. We're also really trying to leave it up to the client to fill out that intake form and really lessening that, hand-to-hand documentation. We are handling certain documentation in terms of making copies of important documents because those are still needed to complete the tax returns. But we're making sure that we're propping, the bathroom door open and we're washing our hands and making sure we have lotion nearby, hopefully, so we're not keeping our hands so dry. And so it's definitely navigating in a new normal society. It's been very difficult, and I think, the first couple of weeks it was a little slow to start because not a lot of people knew that we were opened and that we were still providing the service. But as word got out, and definitely with a lot of help from the site coordinators from the coalition outreaching, every week we seem to, Kannyka, you can jump in, but it seems like every week it's growing and growing. And I think, having this as a platform as well will hopefully inform more people to come on down. It's a walk-in service, so they do not need to make a specific appointment. However, a lot of individuals do call our main site and have a lot of questions. And we are doing everything we can to service people as quickly as possible. We just ask if no one picks up the phone to leave a voicemail, leaving their name and their phone number and assuring them that we will give them a call back and try to tend to their needs. And every, tax situation is case specific. So we want to be able to sometimes get on that phone call with them,
Right.
And navigate specifically. But, we're growing and we're dealing with it. And, every week I think we come upon a new challenge and we just try to find ways to adjust and move forward. So.
I want to share that since the tax deadline has now been extended and changed to July 15th,
Right.
we at first had clients call who were just so comfortable going to the same site. So they kept on saying, no, I want to wait till you guys are open. They want to still see the face. But after the first week, the second week, third week, it was still going on. We pretty much clarified with the clients that if you really need to, and we encourage you to just go down to Federal Hill House, 9 Cortlandt Street in Providence. For those who are in Providence, we wanted them to be able to get it done faster. And then, as Allori said, there's more and more people every week going. And so what I want to reassure the viewers is happening is that we're following all those safety precautions, and the preparers are doing the preparation sometimes there, but in a room by him or herself.
Yeah.
And then there is still a quality review, so a second person looks at it, and most of the time it's Stacy, and then the client will get a call back. I do want to emphasize that it's not a day or two turnaround. It is give us 2 to 3 days, because there's some logistics behind the scenes that we have to look at and do and make sure that we do everything properly and correctly. And then, but we assure you that we're getting it done correctly. And then we'll call you for any questions, and then you'll get the final call to pick up your finalized tax.
And what are you both finding that some of the most common questions individuals are calling with are?
I'll be honest, I saw a few, I saw a few scenarios that there are people who haven't filed, or who didn't want to file and now are coming out to file, which is beneficial because, again, like Linda referred to, they could get their earned income credit. But then there are also those who are working on 1099. So it's bringing up different scenarios that we originally weren't seeing. So there are more people who actually end up owing taxes who are doing it. But this lets them get back in line with taxes, because eventually the IRS catches up to certain people that have 1099s that haven't filed, especially if you haven't done it for several years. So to share that the sites, all VITA sites for our software, we use TaxSlayer. We could go back to 2016. So if anybody has any old tax years taxes, we could definitely help you. Give us a call, give us a heads up that you're having to drop off multiple years. Again, give us a few days to work on it. And then don't be afraid to do taxes, even though you know that you are owing, because that way the IRS could see you and find you, and then therefore you could get your stimulus payment.
Right, and I just wanted to add to that, that if somebody owes taxes, it's not deducted from the stimulus payment. So people would get the full stimulus payment of $1,200 for an individual, even if they have some taxes that are due. It's in part because the stimulus payment is actually a credit for 2020 taxes.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Linda. I'm glad you shared that, because I don't want anybody to be afraid to feel that if they owe, that their money won't be seen, or that they won't get the stimulus payment.
Right.
And I know that, Linda, you had mentioned this previously as well, but can any of you talk a little bit more about the the question regarding non-filers and navigating that, if they can call and have those questions answered?
Sure. So let's just review who the non-filers are. So that would be anybody who's had no earned income in 2018 or 2019, or who had income. Well, people, and certainly people who get cash assistance through Rhode Island Works. All the other cash programs, really, there's automatic filing, but there are 4,000 families who get Rhode Island Works cash assistance payments. Most of whom would be non-filers. Some of those folks have earned income in 2019, so we encourage them to also contact the VITA site. But for those folks who are using the non-filer portal, it should be pretty straightforward. But Kannyka, you were talking earlier about if somebody gets stuck and needs some help, how the VITA sites could help. So I think that's part 2, right? To talk about the assistance.
So for anybody who needs help on the non-filer portal, or even on the Get My Payment portal, so pretty much anybody who has any questions related to the stimulus package, as well as questions and taxes, no question is too small, too big, too complicated. We're gonna help you as much as we can. So please just give us a call. Any of those numbers that you see on the screen, or if you want to call your regular VITA site, leave your name and number, and somebody will get back to you and answer questions.
Okay, that's really great point. I'm glad you made that. So they can call any of those sites that we had put on the screen, the 5 sites that are open. They can call any of them, but they can also call ones that are not necessarily open, and someone will get back to them. They just have to leave their name and number.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's always 211.
There's always 211.
Anybody be curious? Yeah, there's always
Okay.
211, which is a great resource. We always like to share that. I did want to just say that a lot of the agencies are probably open and functioning with very limited staff at this point. They just may not be offering VITA because of limitations. So, the sites that are open, obviously the ones that you just put up on the screen, by all means call them, call 211. And like Kannyka said, if you're comfortable calling the site that you're used to going, they'll be happy to point you in the right direction.
Okay.
And Erica, go ahead, Linda.
I was just gonna, I hope that all the people who are viewing this show know what the earned income tax credit is, right? But it may just be worth saying that it's a credit for people who are working, and it's a refundable credit. So the credit can both reduce somebody's tax liability, but then if your tax liability is reduced to 0, you get money back. So it increases, it puts money in people's pockets. And there's the federal earned income tax credit. There's also a state earned income tax credit, which is a percentage of what the federal payment is. So again, it's just really important. We've seen a real drop off this year, I think, in people filing tax returns and getting the earned income tax credit. So, COVID-19 is certainly taking up a lot of people's attention and lives, understandably. But I think together, if we can get the word out for people to file, especially since economic times are so difficult, this is a really good way for people to get several $1,000s back in their tax refund this year. So I think the more we can spread the word about it, if you had any earnings in 2019, the EITC is more generous for families, but single adults can access the earned income tax credit too if they have fairly low income. But especially for families, we just have to get the word out that people should be filing their 2019 taxes, and having free help to do it is incredible. And that'll give them going, you know, as hopefully as the economy starts to reopen.
Yeah. And Allori, did you have something to add too?
I was just going to share Federal Hill House's drop-off hours for those that are living in the Providence area. We are open Monday 9 to 12, and then Tuesdays 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And Wednesdays 9 to 12 as well.
Thank you so much. And did any of you have anything to add before we close up? No?
I want to add that there might be people who get frustrated or who get scared or who get, you know, sad. I want to encourage everyone to help each other. And we're, you know, we as agencies that do this day to day, we're definitely here. We, you know, we might not be here for our regular hours, but there is, you know, our lines are open. Please call, please leave your name and number. We'll help reach out, and then together we'll get through this. I really feel like, I think that we just have to band together. And I want to share that, you know, we're getting a lot of feedback and a lot of calls that my friend got this, my coworker got this, or so they're comparing and contrasting a lot. I want to emphasize that everyone's different. So be patient. The payments will come in, the stimulus payments, and then we will help you get your taxes done. You know, it might not be the next day, it might not be immediate, but we'll help you.
Right. Be patient, and the resources are there, so reach out, right?
Yes.
One last thing I wanted to add, Erica, was that there are a lot of scams going around right now during this season. There are scams going around during the tax season during normal times, but right now we've heard things like there are some places that are giving cash advance on these stimulus payments. And, you know, so we really want to encourage viewers and anyone out there that, you know, if you hear something that's too good to be true, please, you know, just verify that before you sign on to anything. And the stimulus payment certainly, you know, should not be something that is taken out as a cash advance, because those are predatory lending practices, and a program like VITA specifically is, you know, is around to help reduce those sort of practices. We want our filers, we want our clients to get 100% of their tax returns back into their hands. That's why the program is 100% free, and it's, you know, run by volunteers. And like I said, and I keep saying it again, if anything is too good to be true, one quick phone call to a place like 211 or to a trusted agency where you have that built-in relationship over the years of going to do your taxes will just help answer all those questions.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. So even questions like that around some of those scams and questions around stimulus, can they can reach out to those VITA sites as well for those? Okay.
I would assume so. I think Kannyka and Allori would agree.
Yeah, definitely. And any question is welcome. We are just here to help, to try to make sure that people have access to increase their income in any way possible.
Absolutely.
And Erica, if I could just wanted to add that at Economic Progress Institute in putting out fact sheets about SNAP benefits and WIC and things that are changing during COVID. We fact sheets for families where there are undocumented family members or DACA recipients. So I just encourage folks to go on our website at economicprogressri.org to find some of those materials. Because again, it's all about trying to give people the income supports and access to healthcare and things that they need during these challenging times. And I think Kannyka's right. If we all work together as a community, we'll come out of this stronger.
Absolutely. What I can do is I can share that website below as well, so folks can see it. All right, well, I wanted to thank all of you guys so much for joining us on Labor Vision. I know that it's a crazy and it's definitely a busy time, so I just appreciate all of you and your time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay well.
Thank you very much. Nice seeing everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
For
Bye.
all of the viewers watching at home, you're watching Labor Vision. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope to see you back here next week with some more updates. Thanks. Have a great night.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.